Today, let's dive into Michael Pollan's pretty radical answer to a question that seems to get more complicated every single year. What should we actually eat? His whole point is that the solution isn't in some lab or on a nutrition label, but in a really simple 7-word idea that challenges, well, pretty much everything we've been taught about food.
You know the feeling, right? You walk into the supermarket and you just bombarded with labels. Low fat, no cholesterol, high fiber, omega-3 enriched. It feels like every single package is shouting some health claim at you, but does it actually make you feel better about what you're buying?
If you feel totally lost in all this, you are not alone. In fact, Pollan argues this confusion is kind of the point. For decades, we've been told to stop trusting our gut, our traditions, and instead just listen to scientists and marketers who want us to see food not as, food, but as a bunch of invisible parts, like vitamins, carbs, and antioxidants.
But what if the way out of this whole mess wasn't some new diet or another scientific breakthrough? What if it was just about getting back to a much older, simpler way of thinking about what we put on our plates? That's exactly where we're headed. Okay, so let's start with this big, kinda crazy puzzle. As a society, we are obsessed with healthy eating. We worry about it, we read about it, we spend billions of dollars on it, and yet we have never been sicker from diseases linked directly to our diet. So what on earth is going on?
Pollan actually has a word for this that just nails it: orthorexics. His point is that all this national anxiety about food, this constant worrying about every little nutrient, it's not making us healthier. No way. It's actually a symptom of the problem itself.
And I mean, the stakes here are just massive. 4 of the top 10 reasons people die today, we're talking heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and certain cancers, are all tied to what's called the Western diet. The bottom line is, our modern way of eating isn't just confusing, it's failing us big time.
So who's the bad guy in this whole story? It's not fat. It's not carbs. It's an idea, an ideology that Pollan gives a name: nutritionism. And this is the invisible force that has totally hijacked how we think about what we eat.
Okay, so here's the core idea. Nutritionism tells us that a carrot isn't really a carrot. It's just a delivery system for beta-carotene. It boils real whole foods down to a collection of good and bad nutrients. And when you think that way, authority shifts from, say, your grandmother to scientists and, you guessed it, food marketers.
And look, this idea didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was built up over more than 100 years. It started way back in the 1800s, with scientists trying to break life down into a few key chemicals. Then came the discovery of vitamins, which were sold to us like they were magic bullets for our health. But the real turning point, that was 1977. That's when official government advice shifted from talking about actual foods, like eat less meat, to talking about these invisible nutrients, like reduced saturated fat. That one change opened the floodgates for the entire food industry.
So what happened when a whole country basically went on this new nutrient-based diet? What were the results of this massive experiment? Well, they were a total disaster.
I mean, just look at the low-fat campaign. It was the ultimate test of nutritionism and its most spectacular failure. As a country, people did what they were told. We ate less fat. But as our fat consumption went down, obesity and diabetes rates didn't just go up, they skyrocketed. Why? Because the industry just replaced all that fat with tons of refined carbs and sugar.
Nutritionism also gave us this whole new category of, well, stuff you can eat. On the left, you see the ingredients for bread. Simple. On the right, you see what Pollan calls an edible food-like substance. Sure, it looks like bread, but it's really an industrial invention, engineered for a super long shelf life and to hit all the latest nutrient buzzwords. So you have to ask, who did this all help? The food industry, that's who. Nutritionism is an absolute dream for marketers. Is fat suddenly the enemy? No problem. We'll just sell you low-fat cookies that are packed with sugar. Are carbs the new evil? Fine, here's some imitation pasta with added protein. It lets them constantly tweak junk food to make it seem healthy, while a poor old carrot can't exactly re-engineer itself.
All right, so if nutritionism is the problem, what's the way out? How do we escape this mess? This is where Pollan's simple genius really shines. The first rule, and honestly the most important one, is to just eat real food.
And there it is, the whole manifesto in 7 words. It sounds so simple, it's almost silly. But in the world we live in, just deciding to eat food is actually a pretty radical act. It's the first step to taking back our health and our enjoyment from the industrial food machine.
So what does that actually mean in a modern supermarket? Pollan gives us a few simple rules of thumb. First, if your great-grandmother wouldn't even recognize it as food, it probably isn't. Avoid things with more than 5 ingredients, or with ingredients you can't even pronounce. And here's a big one. Avoid products that are making loud health claims on the box. As Pollan says, real food is quiet. An apple doesn't need a label to tell you it's healthy.
And where do you actually find this stuff? Well, you can start by just shopping the outer edges of the supermarket. That's usually where the fresh produce, meat, and dairy are. But even better, get out of the supermarket entirely. Go to a farmer's market. You're not going to find any high fructose corn syrup or ethoxylated diglycerides there. You're just going to find food.
Okay, so beyond just eat food, the last 2 parts of the puzzle tell us what kinds of food to focus on, and maybe just as important, how we should be eating them.
Now, mostly plants, that doesn't mean you have to go full vegetarian. It just means thinking of meat more as a side dish, or for special occasions, instead of the main event every single night. The idea is to fill most of your plate with a bunch of different colorful vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. It's how people all over the world ate healthy for centuries.
And then there's the last piece, not too much. Now, this isn't about obsessively counting calories. It's about changing our whole culture of eating. It means choosing quality over quantity. It means slowing down, sitting at a table with other people, not scarfing down food in front of a screen or in the car. When you actually cook your own food, you take back control from the big corporations, and you turn eating from just refueling into something special.
You know, in the end, this is about so much more than just nutrition. It's about reconnecting with our food, with the earth it came from, and with each other. By getting back to real food and eating it with pleasure and with people we care about, we're not just improving our health, we're tapping back into one of the most basic, most meaningful human experiences. So I guess the question is, are we willing to trade the convenience of the Western diet for the joy of real food?